Okay, I'll call this meeting of the Board of Selectmen for February 1st, 2018 to order. We'll start with a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America. Would anybody like to add any agenda item? I would like to actually change an agenda item. In 11D, it reads, appointment of Bonnie Yossi, Charter Revision Study Committee, to a term expiring 7/1/2018. I'd like to change that to appoint 2 alternates to the Charter Revision Study Committee and expiring 7/1/2018, because since this agenda was published, we got 2 more applications. And we'll discuss that.
Can you just give me the names, Bonnie and?
The application names?
Please.
Bonnie Yossi.
Yep.
Let's see.
I'm sorry.
Bob Leach and Stafford. Somebody Stafford.
Rachel Stafford.
Rachel Stafford.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
So, any discussion? I'll move to change the agenda item to read, appoint 2 alternates as listed there to the Charter Revision Study Committee for a term ending 7/1/2018. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'll move to approve the minutes of January 18th, 2018. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All those approved?
Aye.
Communication. Is there any communications? I don't have any communications either. Okay, public participation. Don.
Honor Chair Harrington Road. At your last meeting on the 18th of January, Cheryl Walsh's name was brought up to be appointed to the Charter Revision Study Committee. And it was brought up that she was affiliated with CREW. I am the treasurer of CREW. I was informed that many, many years ago. Cheryl Walsh has never been to a CREW meeting. She's never been a member of CREW, and she's not a member of CREW. I just want to make that clear. Any questions?
No, thank you. Further public participation. Cindy.
Cindy Hearn, Oak Hamlet Court. I just wanted to make to voice some concern about the combining of the senior center, the human services, and the Parks and Rec department. The item about that concerns me is definitely not the competence of Melissa Maltese. I think she's wonderful. She's done amazing things for her town. I think she could do that job terrifically. What I'm concerned about is that somewhere between her and the clients that are coming into the senior center or the human services, if you have to have 3 human service professional or social worker professional in either doing those intakes or supervising the people that are doing the human intakes and dealing with the clients that come in. Human services is a profession, social work is a profession that handles things like senior services. Being a degree professional means that you have to adhere to a code of ethics when dealing with clients. It ensures that clients have a certain standard of confidentiality, that they're treated with dignity. And people in degreed social services professions are trained to identify the needs of clients, to maybe find things that, you know, people might have needs that they're not aware of. There might be other ways that we can help them, and not having a licensed social worker or a human service director or someone that is a licensed professional overseeing these positions, not having that really, really concerns me. That there's a reason that we have those professions, there's a reason why we license them, there's a reason why the organizations, and I just think that we owe it to the town to have that level of professionalism in this senior services and human services area.
Okay, thank you. Further public participation?
Yes. Bob Light, Rice Street in East Windsor. Because we didn't get to it in the budget hearing, I'd just like to make a remark and perhaps ask a question that you don't have to answer, of course, or any public input. Legal expenses up 17%. Not a shock to anybody. It's very concerning in regards to the 2% cap that the budget gets passed over through town. But the more important part is maybe it's a positive thing that that was just for town council, part of legal expenses, going up 17%. Labor relations is going up 50%. Tell me that you're going to appoint a specialist outside the regular town council firm to do this very important matter of negotiations.
We're going to take that up, and you put your finger on a thing, and that was on one of my slides, that reduce cost, and one said legal expenses, and I think we can reduce them considerably by managing it. And those numbers that show the increase, last year, not this current fiscal year, but the last fiscal year, we spent $300,000 on that legal expenses, which is way too much. And we budgeted less than that, so we overspent it by a considerable amount. So we put that in for this year, but this year, current fiscal year, we're overspending that. And so we've got to get control of that. The legal expenses are out of control, and we as a group here are going to definitely focus on that very soon. Keith.
Yeah, Keith Davila, Depot Street, just on the same issue. You know, most towns spend $160, $175 an hour for attorneys on an agreement to provide services for the town. And, you know, towns don't spend $350 an hour for legal services that I'm aware of, except perhaps in Windsor. And then the other issue is I think Bob is trying to get to a point that I think his point is, what I think should happen when we get into very specialized areas, like labor law, is you hire a specialist at a reasonable rate that really knows what they're doing, and they take care of the problem, rather than paying somebody who's not really all that qualified or a specialist in an area, who will spend a lot more money to try to accomplish the same goals. And labor law and bond counsel are the two areas that most towns retain specialists, aside from the general counsel, so that they can really focus the work that needs to be done and get it done properly. And the town budget for East Windsor for legal expenses, it far exceeds the legal expense budgets for other towns that are many times greater than the size of East Windsor. And I would imagine you won't find another town in the state of Connecticut that is as small as East Windsor that is spending as much money on legal fees as East Windsor does. So that really is, when I was talking earlier about spending money inappropriately and not watching it, this is one area that, and I think the Board of Education likewise needs to be careful. I'm not criticizing their expenditures for legal fees, but they have to be extraordinarily careful because budgets need to be maintained in all areas, including legal expenses, for the town to operate properly.
Well,
Thank you.
Keith, being new to this board, what you've just said were precisely my thoughts, and looking at what those expenditures have been and looking at even some of the individual charges. They're uncalled for. And we were charged 0.2 of an hour to change an appointment with somebody with an email, which cost $63. It's just silly. It's wrong.
Okay, further public participation. All right, we'll move on to board and commission resignations and appointments. And we have no resignations, no reappointments, but we do have a new appointment. And so I move we appoint Robert Like to the Economic Development Commission as a regular member for a term expiring 1/1/2021.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? All's in favor?
All right.
So you're appointed, Robert.
Thank you.
So we'll get that economic development.
I got 4 more years.
All right.
You'll do a good job.
East Windsor 250th.
So I brought the yard signs that we have. So if you make a $50 donation to the 250th anniversary, you will get a yard sign. I believe these are 30 by 30, and we have really heavy-duty metal stands for them. So if you want one, just make a donation of $50 and let me know that it's for a sign, and we'll get you a sign.
Rebecca, could I just have that for the end, till the end of the meeting?
This is Sarah's, and she might be leaving.
You gonna leave?
It might. We'll see how long this goes.
Okay.
Why?
Let me have it until she leaves. Put it right up here. And this is the charter oak beam that was just put up today. So,
We found it?
Let's put it in the middle then, because that's going to bother me the whole night.
Thank you, Rebecca.
You're good. Other than that,
That's right.
we have the Kids Winterfest coming up on February 24th at the Scout Hall from 1 to 4 o'clock. We are going to have kids activities like crafts and cookie making and decorating, rock painting. There's going to be Legos. We're going to have depending on the weather, some type of sleigh ride. And that's that. And
is
then,
that at Scout Hall?
Yep, Scout Hall from 1 to 4.
And the date is what?
The 24th. And then also throughout the entire month of February. Paul, you want to just pop in with your spiel?
I'd love to. The Love Your Library Scavenger Hunt, which takes place at the 5 libraries of East Windsor. Gets that number, 5. That's an
Can you
important
explain
number.
that? I know too.
Because back when this town was incorporated, Ellington and South Windsor areas were part of this town. So all those libraries are participating. That starts today.
It goes for the whole month of February.
Goes for the entire month of February. And on March 3rd, there will be a drawing for those that complete the books for lots of prizes. We have a lot of sponsors and some surprise gifts. And the books are available at the town hall.
Put
And,
them on the table here if you want.
and,
They're for sale.
Oh, for sale?
no, they're not for sale.
Oh, you're not doing that.
There's no charge for the books.
Cool.
The Selectmen's office has them. We don't want to put them out. We don't want them disappearing. We want people to ask for them. The libraries have them, all 5 libraries, and the book club bookstore in South Windsor, because they were our primary sponsor. Okay, so they are available. If anybody's desperate tonight, I happen to have them. But we want you to participate. You go to each library, you either answer 5 questions or do 5 different things and get it signed off by the staff. And if you complete all 5 libraries, then your family and it's a family book, can be entered into the drawing for March 3rd, which will be at the book club in South Windsor. And that drawing will be managed by the 250th anniversary committee. So none of the libraries are going to be directly involved in that drawing. We want to keep it as fair as possible. Lots of goodies, though.
Well, can you just name the libraries?
The libraries would be the Hall Memorial Library in Ellington, the Wood Memorial Library in South Windsor, the South Windsor Public Library, the Broadbrook Public Library, and the Warehouse Point Public Library.
So that's the whole month of February, and then on March 21st at 12:30, it's going to be the Victorian lady who's doing some type of weaving and spinning, along with the tea party and coffee at the senior center, and that's at 12:30. There's going to be tea, coffee, dessert, cake, and the demonstration of the weaving that this lady does. So those
What's
are
the date again?
March 21st on a Wednesday. So those are our most upcoming events, and also we will be at the home show in the old East Windsor, in the old East Windsor Walmart, March 10th and 11th for all the days. So I don't remember those times off the top of my head, but for the full day. So that's where we're going to be. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to the casino. And sitting in the back of the room is Dave Capiello. And I talked to him before, and he has an announcement to make. What is your announcement?
We are very excited to announce that on February 28th, the theater will be coming down. So we're going to have a ceremony that day. You'll all get save the date invitations to make sure you're all there. It'll be a nice event. In between now and then, you're going to see fencing going up, and I think they may have already started. If not, they will in the next few days, doing core boards on the site. But we're excited that at the end of the month, the building's coming down. Or at least the first day of the building coming down. It won't come down all in one day.
I don't think you have a permit yet, so best get that.
You got a big machine with a wrecking ball, that's all you need, right?
That's right. And I apologize, I'm only leaving in a few minutes. I live in Newtown, and I-84 in Waterbury is going to be closed down at 9 o'clock, so I don't want to be stuck having to get detour. I'll stay for a little while longer. Any questions?
Dave, may I ask one question? Where do you stand with respect to Department of Interior and the Bureau of Indian Affairs with their approval?
I recommend, if you haven't read it already, go on Connecticut Capitol Report and look at the Politico article that had come out today that highlights, well, I'll let you judge for yourself with the highlights, but we believe that there was some serious, and I think there was admissions of some serious lobbying by certain folks to the Department of the Interior to stop this process. And I think you'll find it eye-opening and enlightening.
Thank you.
Okay. On the table, I put two, and I'll pass out. I haven't even given to the selectmen. Jason was kind enough to make a version of our casino ordinance that we're trying to make to put the upfront money and the subsequent payments into a separate fund. And I rewrote it, and here's my rewrite of that. So we're still trying to wordsmith it, but I think we're getting closer. We'll get that down. So it's there to read, and I think we'll wait for Jason to come next meeting to hammer out any details, but I think we're getting pretty close. Does anybody else want to say anything about the casino?
Can I just ask a question?
I think Mark-
You said Jason provided a version and then you changed one. Which is which?
Which is
the
which?
strikeout one yours or Jason's?
The short one's mine, the one page, Jason goes on to the back. His was done in blue and underlined, he showed the changes. I just rewrote it. Okay. Do you want to go on to the next agenda item, or do you want to stick with this? Move on. Go ahead.
I can't agree with this.
All right. You got, Steve doesn't like mine, so.
Can't agree with it. I didn't like Jason's either.
Oh, okay.
This was worse.
Well, we're getting there.
We're gonna get there though.
Well, okay, let's move on. And Kathy, you want to talk about the capital improvement plan?
You want to come up?
Sure.
I'm going to ask Dale to come with me as the
Adam's here.
other
as
reigning
well.
member of the
And
committee.
Bob is here as well.
We have some members from the committee here to support us. I believe you all should have received a letter from me. I assumed that it went in your packets.
I will.
So going through that, so we'll talk a little bit, just to give you guys a little background. I know that at least two of you are new on this table, Charlie and Andy. So what we did is, and typically what we do is we sit and listen to the presentations from all the different departments in town in terms of what their projects are, what they entail, what they cost, timing, necessity, all of those kinds of things. This is our book. As you can see, we've been through a lot of paper. And from that, then we talked about how to organize things. So we did things a little bit different this year in that we know that there are some things in the capital improvement budget that, well, a lot of us don't really think are capital improvements. They're things that we have to do every year. Things like police vehicles, town vehicles, the assessor's GIS system, drainage projects around town, the revaluation. That's something that we fund every year so that every 5 years when it comes around, there's enough money there to do the revaluation. So these are things that we saw as never going away, ever. I mean, we have to fix our roads. We have to continue to maintain and grow the GIS system.
Can I ask you something so I don't forget here?
Sure.
You said that you don't believe a number of these are capital expenditures, correct?
Because they're ongoing. I see a capital, as we talk about it, a capital expenditure being something that's spent once for a project.
Right.
You know, it may take more than a year, but it's a project, and then it's gone. But road improvement is something that we do forever. But our understanding is that the only way to put money aside and then not spend it this year and to keep it growing and recurring is to use the capital improvement process so that it can go into a capital non-recurring fund. So we separated those projects out, those things that we know we're going to have to fund forever, and looked at those a little bit differently than the way we looked at the rest of the projects.
Accounting practices are dictated by whether it's a CapEx item or not, is the amount of what the expenditure is and how long that asset will be in use. And have you gotten any ruling from the town auditor, because they would be the ones that would say which ones are and which ones aren't?
Well, we've gotten our guidance from the town treasurer in terms of how this works, and this has been the case for many years that I've been involved in it. So
It'd probably be healthy.
I'm sure they've talked with the auditor about how they should and can put the money aside and do that. You know, my understanding is this is the way the auditor wanted to see it done as well.
Because then we have another meeting in June after the budget is passed, and depending upon the amount of money that's approved by the budget, then we decide how that money is going to be spent. So, in
So
the
what
past,
happens, Dale, is you get a a lump sum and then you redistribute?
We'll read this, yeah, so
Right.
this is our preliminary list of projects that we've given you. This was the full list of projects. In fact, I think I have copies here if you guys wanted to see it,
Yeah.
but, there's one for Peg there as well, passing both ways. Our group has already seen them. So the ones at the top, you'll see under the recommended funding line, those were the ones that we put on the list that we sent to you in the letter. And the ones below that are the ones that we did not provide any funding to at all this year, on a preliminary basis again. So the way this process is worked.
Say it again?
So this column here called recommended funding,
Yeah.
it's got numbers in it about halfway down, those are the
Yeah.
ones that are on your letter.
Okay, all right.
And the ones on the bottom are not.
Okay.
We didn't, at this point at least, allocate any money to those. So the way this process has always worked is that we come up with a preliminary list, and things change. So between now and the time the budget is actually approved, something new may show up and something old may not need to be done. Maybe somebody gets a grant to fund one of these, and so we don't need to spend money on it, and we'll bring up something else further down on the list instead. So the way this has always worked is we come to you with what we think is a minimum amount of money that we need in order to help keep moving East Windsor forward and take care of some of these capital projects. And then, once the budget is approved, we typically go back into session and then distribute the money between the projects, depending upon what we get.
And how good is the rationale that you get from the people who request capital money?
Well,
For just taking an example, the police vehicles, they want to replace, what, 2, 3?
2.5. We did it at 2.5.
Every year it's 2, and the following year it's 3, 2, 3.
What's the criteria for?
The criteria for that is the mileage and hours
Right,
on the
so they give us a
vehicle.
list of how many.
If there was a way to get 2.5 vehicles every year, then it would work out in the math very well, but we can't, so.
So what we've actually put into the preliminary budget is 2.5 vehicles, because they need 2 this year. What it's been is 2, and then 3, and then 2, and then 3. So as they've presented it to us, a vehicle with a specific number of miles is not indicative. Like, you might look at a car with 50,000 miles and say, hey, that sucker's got a lot of life left. But for a police vehicle, that's been running for a lot more than 50,000 miles, right? So it's a lot more wear and tear on their vehicles than just the miles.
But another
that
good
they
way to
put
look
there.
at it would be to track maintenance on a machine.
And they do that as well. So they
And-
talk to us about what they're spending on maintenance.
And is that the criteria, or is it just lapse time?
I think
I have
you'll-
a 2001 Buick Regal, and it's a great car, and the maintenance is low. I just change oil in the thing, and it runs.
Yep.
If I wanted a new car every 10 years, that would have been gone. If, you know, if the
Right.
police department wants
And
to
that's not
swap
their
cars out
criteria.
every 4 years or whatever it is.
We talk
it'd be
about the
gone.
maintenance, we
Right,
talk
there's-
about
there's-
the
and
cost
actually, there's even
expenditures.
specified maintenance that we're not doing, and that would be driver seats in the vehicles. Every 70,000 miles, the state police requires that, this is from the state police anyway, that those driver seats be changed. And the reason being, when a guy getting in and out of the car with his gear on tears the seats up that. We don't even do that.
But a better criteria, Bob, would be to replace torn seats.
Well, yeah, but the expense of doing that raises our, of course, we make sure our vehicles are safe, and of course they are. But we're not even at that point to where we can afford to actually really do preventative upkeep on vehicles. We use the heck out of it.
So the
Just another, for instance, we still have Crown Vics in service.
Yep. Yep.
And so does the state.
Yeah.
Town.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah.
Police,
But
police
it's
vehicle.
not a first responder vehicle.
No.
Right,
No,
yeah,
no,
let's, yeah.
No, just kidding.
But,
I mean, the priority here for us is to make sure that our police have vehicles that are not only safe for them to drive, but will get them to where they need to be when they need to be
no,
there.
and that's part of the criteria though is the mileage, the hours, and the amount of maintenance that we're paying.
And that 2 and 3, 2.5 per year, if you will, that's been determined over many years as what it takes to kind of
It used
keep
to
the
be 2.
fleet afloat, really, yeah, to
How
keep
many
the fleet
vehicles do they
working.
have total?
Should be in there.
In here?
Yep.
I don't have it in this
So I
one.
gave Andy my copy.
Yeah, it's not in this one, on the vehicles. We've talked about it before, we've seen longer lists than this one previously, where there's been more detail in other years.
There's frontline vehicles, okay, and that's where the new vehicles go. They go into the front line. Those are the first responders. The rest, the older vehicles might go to a resource officer or private duty. They utilize them as much as they can, but they're not really first line cars anymore. Because of mileage, because of maintenance, because of, you know, they're over, believe me, they're well over 100,000 miles before that car even thinks about being replaced. Unless, obviously, there was some accident or whatever, but then insurance gets involved, so it's not really an act of replacing the vehicle.
I think, you know, we can all agree on this, is that over the past 5 years, maybe even back further, that people retain their vehicles longer because they stand up longer than they were used to.
And the new Fords do.
You know,
They do.
You know, and just, it's just the way it is. They've made them a lot better. I think we're trying to get us, you know, what do we do here? You get a breakdown when you say what the maintenance repairs on, you know, you get the cost per mile of what the maintenance has been. Just as you see it many times in the newspaper, you know, the cost per mile for the vehicle maintenance on the Honda, this is, you know, 52 cents per mile, and that, you know, that way you're able to judge, you know, how this thing is really performing and has it accelerated compared to the others. So you have some benchmark to know, you know, because you spent $1,000, but how many miles was that? Then you get it down to how many miles are you going? I think that's a healthy way to look at that.
And I think the departments do that level of detail
Yeah.
within the departments. We
I
don't
can tell
get
you
down
on the
to
police commission,
that
we
level
look at our
of detail
vehicle
for every vehicle, yeah. That,
One of our highest
I
costs.
mean, we'd be here forever if we got down into that kind of nitty-gritty for every one of these requests, to be honest. We count on our department heads to do that work for us.
I shouldn't say, you know, that they should do it.
And we
Right.
talk
We
about
talk
it, so I know they do.
Yeah,
They
we talk about it.
talk about, we talk about numbers, we talk
Simple.
about that kind of stuff. They
It's a
talk
simple
about
thing to
where the
look down
maintenance
that-
is.
Yeah, look down that column. You know,
Right.
You might have a car that's 2
When-
years old that is skyrocketing in expenses because it was no good to begin with.
Right.
That happens.
Yep.
And that's, you move on that faster.
There are issues
But
with
that
some of
should
the
be
new
clear.
Fords on the
They
wheel
do.
bearings that we've had issues with, and the Ford has cleared that up now, so it's something to watch.
Okay, I wonder, as long as you're here, can we just go down the list that you sent us and say which ones are what you call recurring and which ones are?
We can do that.
Okay.
In fact, if you look at the piece of paper that I gave you a few
Okay.
minutes ago, the ones above the little gray line are the ones that we considered recurring.
Okay.
Okay.
We actually have a project type column, and it's OG for ongoing.
Where's this column? Oh, gee, I see it, I see it, oh, gee, I see it.
So you'll see on here, you know, we've listed a number of things, the priority that was given to it by the department who gave it to us. Each of the departments also ranks their projects in terms of whether this is the most important thing to their department and the least important thing in their department.
Okay,
We asked for at least the top 3.
how about the number 7, the Public Works vehicle replacement, that's 200,000?
That is, and that.
Is that an annual thing? How often do we pay 200,000?
No, that's.
No, it's not. I
this-
believe that one is
this year's.
specific. Yeah.
Okay, so really that probably shouldn't be in
Well, vehicles for them is an ongoing thing. The amount of money they may get at a specific point may not be. I'm looking, I've got to see if I can find theirs. Public work vehicle.
That actually covers a lot of ground. Even though we have it listed as vehicle, that's, if if you read over the important notes, ongoing replacement of public works and parks and rec, grounds, vehicles, and equipment. So it encompasses more than just.
I hear what you're saying. Is it?
But-
I think what they were looking for this year was a six-wheel dump vehicle
So
that they need to replace.
All right, good. That'll work. So when I was talking about the budget, some of these other things, maybe we can fund out of the jet right away.
Which is good, but in years going forward, I question whether that's the way to go. Because we're not
Okay, well.
budgeting for it.
Give it to the state, we always give the money to the state. Okay. Any further questions?
I have one. You people, I'm sure, went into significant amount of detail to understand the acceptability of what they're asking for. I don't want to reply all the ground that you people
Thank you.
do. That's not what we're here for. But I do want to have enough rationale so that when I sign up for something, I know personally that I've signed up for something that's real. And I don't mean to go back to the police department, except as a simple example. The fact that the autos are old is not a reason for replacement. What is the reason for replacement is its condition.
Right, right.
What's the maintenance been on the car for 3 years or 5 years before? I don't even know how long we keep them. But for 3 years, for 2 years, for 1 year, for the current year, if you see that escalating, then obviously that car should be given consideration for replacement. And Bob was saying that the state police replace the seats in their cars after 70,000 miles. And you don't, and that's fine. But things like that, and I'm just explaining that as an example, there must be things in the automobiles that that are criteria for replacement that maybe we could do some maintenance on.
Yes,
And you know, and be judicious about whether that's a criteria for replacement or just a criteria for expenditure to prevent replacement, which is a large number. I'd like to understand that, and I don't know whether that's understanding comes from your group or whether it comes from the police department or the fire department or whoever else is presenting to us, the public works people and so on. And what's the right place to do that? Are you the right people to question, or are they the right people to question?
You know,
I would
we
imagine
have-
you would have to rely on the department, I think,
yeah.
in this
And
case.
that's what we've done. I mean, I can't possibly spit back out to you all of what we talked about when we talked with
And I
them
don't
that
expect-
let
I don't
us,
expect
right.
that.
And I don't have all of that written down. So we sit, we have a conversation, we come to an understanding of where they're at and what they need, and then make our determinations accordingly. And not all of it is written down in charts and stuff.
Okay.
So if you wanted more detail, we would have to probably bring the police department in on their vehicles to give you.
We're going to have the
detailed
opportunity
list.
to talk to the police department. Would it be proper to talk to them about capital expenditure at that time
Yeah.
in their area?
I would give them some warning,
Yeah,
and let
yeah.
them know you're gonna have those questions, so they can bring that information with them.
And similarly with, Public Works, a truck, $200,000, it's a big item, it's one item, $20,000, so, it's being replaced because it has 10,000 hours on it, whatever it is, just so that, I can feel comfortable saying, I do.
Well, and I think that's what we're here for,
Yeah.
too, as
Yeah.
well. I mean,
Oh,
as
sure.
you said,
Yeah.
we're supposed to be your screening board, and when we bring it to you, it's
And I'm
because
sure you do a good
we
job.
found it warranted,
Yeah.
based on our conversations with
But you can
them.
understand that as a board member who has to sign off on something, I really don't want to sign off on something unless I really believe it's the way it should be.
Right, okay?
Every
But we've
one of
never-
you had an
yeah.
opportunity to attend our meetings. They were publicized. They were, we said who was coming, when they were coming. I know you showed up at one and you had some questions, which was great. But to sit here now, after we've worked so hard and done all this work to question what we did?
I'm not doing that, Dale. All I'm saying is that when presented with a list of expenditures, I would like to understand those expenditures so that I can in good conscience.
And probably
But I think the best way to do that is to attend those meetings, yeah. I mean,
when
it's,
Public Works comes and brings everything that they're requesting, and that's when we have
I mean,
that open. And that's when all the
But they'll be
information
prepared
comes
to do that when they come to us also with it?
I would let
I
them know
don't
that they're
know.
gonna have to.
I'm sure they're not accustomed to doing that, because they
They've already
typically
done it.
bring it to the CIP, and the CIP
Yeah.
vets it and does it and comes up with these numbers,
Well,
so
you know, another year,
I'm sure that's not,
I will sit in on the CIP meetings and it will allow the pressure to go away.
Yeah.
But in my mind-
And I can understand, because
And
it's
in my
new
mind, the
use.
questions have got to go away.
but understand too that nobody's ever asked us to bring you that level of detail before, so we did not ask them to provide that in writing such that we could provide it to you,
Okay.
because that's not how we've done this in previous years.
Okay.
Okay, and going back to the ongoing and the not, do you think it would be wise to separate those two in a sense? Like you give a budget for ongoing and a budget for special things? Or you would sacrifice ongoing to
Sometimes
fund
we do sacrifice
no,
ongoing
yeah.
for something else that
That's a good
really
point.
has to get done, that's mandated, but it's a one-time thing. So
Yeah.
there are times when we get our pocket of money and we say, okay, well, police department, you're not gonna get 2 cars this year, you're gonna get 1. Or Lenny, you're not gonna be able to fix as many roads because we have to do this.
Yeah.
You know, we have to take an oil tank out of the ground because it's mandated and it's gotta be done by this year, so that's gotta
As the
happen.
new person, there's a level of frustration for me that we had so many ongoing or recurring items, to your point of what is capital improvement. I couldn't get that to reconcile to me that we had so many items and a good chunk of the total proposal is coming from recurring items. Here we are, capital improvement planning committee, and yet we're handicapped because the first, I don't know, 30, 40% is things that are recurring that probably belong in a different,
Yeah,
in the
many of
actual
those items
budget
are
itself.
items that should be budgeted every year in those departments' budgets.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I'm not an auditor, I couldn't tell you.
I
Tell you
think,
whether
you know,
that's the right
part
way
of
to
the
go.
problem with that and the way this has evolved in this town is part of it is the 2% cap. You know, so if you can't increase Lenny's road improvements because you can't get past the 2% mark. So he can't continue to maintain the roads with the money that he's getting, and this is where the extra ends up. Now, I'm not gonna say he doesn't have any money in his budget to repair roads, he does, but it's not enough to keep up. And so capital improvements comes in to fill that gap.
And it's very easy for me to express that frustration, but then the assessor's office, 50,000, okay, if it doesn't belong here, well, where does it go? That's a significant chunk. If you're stuck with that 2%, that's gotta go somewhere else. So it's easy for me to say, it took me a little while to get to that point, but, you know, it is, what is the definition of it? Something's not jiving.
I guess as
Every
long as
year.
we know where it is.
Right.
And how, as long as we know where it is and how we consistently treat it, I guess that's an okay situation. I would think an auditor would, as long as it was done consistently over the years and managed properly, I don't think an auditor would have a problem with that.
Well, I can tell you, I just heard the audit finding, the auditor came and did his preliminary thing with the Board of Finance, and he didn't find no significant findings at all.
It was a good report.
It was a very good audit. So he clearly doesn't have an issue with the
Yeah.
way that we're doing these. Because it's been done this way for a while. Yeah.
I don't know, does he look into that detail level, what's CapEx and what isn't?
I don't know what level he goes to.
I don't get that anyway from the report, you know, that it's based upon the financial statement. And
He looks at processes and procedures, and I know he spot checks things to look for issues with those processes to make sure things tie out the way they should. Obviously, he does not check every single expenditure, because that's not his job.
No.
It would be nice to have one come in and take a look at these ongoing recurring expenditures that we have, that we keep budgeting in CIP and see if they can't be move to a department's budget. Of course, it's gonna increase their bottom line and their budget, so of course
And
their
then-
budget's gonna go up.
And then you won't get,
It's
then you'll be
something
capped
that's-
at 2% and they won't get it.
handicapping
Right.
the capital improvements we really need to make, so.
Right, what's happened over the years is that as the departments can't get enough money to do their required, the things they cannot live without, like the GIS, which is really a mandated thing, and we're behind in bringing that system to where it should be. But they can't get it into their budget because of the 2% cap, and there's no place else for them to really go.
Well, this.
So the town charter says anything that's over 20% has to come to CIP. Or
20,000.
20,000, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
20,000 has to come to CIP, so here we are.
What does a 20, I don't want to get into deal, we can talk about this one.
No, go ahead, ask.
Well, you mentioned the GIS,
Yep.
and it's not up to date. Does the 25,000 bring it up to date, or is it just?
Currently, no, it's
another
gonna, it's
step?
gonna continue, it's
Just
another
another
step,
step.
yep.
It's programming, they have to program.
You
Yeah.
have to program in the
layers.
different
Yeah.
layers,
Yes.
so that will help add another layer
Okay,
to the system.
and that's an ongoing process.
Will be for
Well,
some
and
time.
not
I mean,
only
at
that,
some
but
point,
you
it
can
may,
use the data
it may
input to
drop back,
maintain it.
but
Kind
then
of
you're
maintain
into
it.
maintaining the existing rather than
licensing.
adding
Yeah.
layers. And there's licensing and,
Okay?
Okay, any further questions, or?
You guys are okay. I'll give the auditor a call about that.
Okay.
Just a quick call to ask him about that. because
Yeah,
I
they
don't
put
know.
their eyes on that.
I don't know why, I don't know why the cruisers are, they're always part of the cruise budget. I know they got moved over there.
They haven't been for the last 15 years.
I was gonna say, I've
Yeah,
been
they
listening
were
to
when I
this
was
for a
there.
long time.
They might have been, but for
Yeah.
the last 15 years.
That's what I'm
they
saying,
haven't. Yeah.
I don't know how,
What the process was, what
well,
changed.
I don't know how the information, and how things are done when people leave and how it moves to the next, you know what I'm saying? The history of it, is this the right way, or just that we started doing it and nobody asked and so forth, and I'll just give them a quick call and let you know how.
Well, for a
that
couple
comes
of
out.
years, they were asking for 3 cruisers, and we would only give them 1 because that's all the money that
Yeah.
we had. So it put them behind, because obviously when they get a new vehicle, it's got a warranty on it. That's huge when you're getting that many miles in the first year on a vehicle. The warranty runs out obviously before the year is up because of the mileage. But that's a huge factor in when they go to replace the vehicle. Because if they're high maintenance on a vehicle, and then they get this one, for 6 to 8 months, there's no cost, because it's all under warranty.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's another saving.
okay, good,
Okay, well, thank you.
thank you much. Which one is that? This one.
Yes, it will.
Okay, I put Calamar on the agenda, and as you know, that's a planned construction of a senior rental apartment complex with 122 units. And I just wanted to let you know that they have now applied for a building permit, and they gave us $142,000 with that. So they put it, estimated as an $8 million structure that they're going to build. And so now we're reviewing the plans. So just thought I'd give you a heads up that Calamar's apparently comfortable.
They started the site work.
Have they?
Yes.
Okay. No, it's on 140, right across from Dunkin' Donut, next to Don's office. Yeah, driving range.
Where the driving range used to be.
Okay, moving on, any comments on Calamar? Moving on to item 11C. I'd like to move to expand the Charter Revision Study Committee to include 2 alternate members. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm going to identify the people and their terms. I haven't committed a motion.
Well, on item number D is to appoint the people. Okay, so first we'll move to expand it to add 2 alternates. So if there's no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and now, I'd like to, next item is to appoint 2 alternate members. And we have 3 people who requested to be an alternate. One is Rachel Safford, S-A,
Stafford.
I don't think, there's no T in this. S-A-F-F-O-R-D. And another person is Robert Leach, and the 3rd person is Bonnie Yoski. So we can choose whoever we want, obviously. I did talk to the chairman of the committee, and they're their co-chairman, and they both felt that they'd like Rachel and Bonnie on that committee. A couple reasons that they mentioned was there's 7 men and 2 women. We also have Betsy Burns represents the police commission on that. So they thought that they'd like to go add the 2 women. But that's what they said to me. So you can, Bob, he was up here. So
For that reason, I would make a motion to put Bonnie and Rachel as those members.
okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. The fiscal year 18-19 budget, we went through that quite intensely just before this, but what I'll do, just to, so I've done my work as first selectman, I'll present you guys with the budget. Here it is. This is the detail. And this will be online tomorrow, so it's available there. And if you go to the town clerk, you can get a copy too. Oh, they have names on them, right? Doesn't matter. Who are you, Jay? I'll give you a job. Andy, who are you? That's Peggy's. Here we are. Okay, any discussion on the budget? We're going to get together on February 6th for our first workshop. And Jen's going to get to the schedule from then on, who's going to come where. But if you have any particular one that you want to come on a particular night, you should let me know fairly soon. Some take longer than others, like police will take a long time, public works will take a long time, probably the building department might take, and also planning and zoning. So probably we should put those on different nights.
And one major one at each night, you mean?
Probably, because otherwise it would take a long time. And we'll see when they're available. Okay, any further discussion on the budget?
To digest.
And now we'll go on to item F, property sale. In your packet, there should be something for a land purchase contract for 132 Wells Road. You know that? Okay, and so we have a contract now for 132 Wells Road, and we're going to sell it for $65,000. And so if you'll approve that contract.
65,000 or 6,500?
6,500, I misspoke.
I don't have that plan in my packet. I don't have other stuff in there either.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
About that. Where is this property and what is it?
What it is a property, you can have it.
Nice.
It's a property on Wells Road, and it's between two building lots that have houses on them. And it was zoned as a wetlands. And the real estate agent tried to sell it, and for I think it was $25,000, and then he had to lower it to 15, and finally to 10 because nobody could build on that. But that's what this guy wants to try to do. But so he priced it as farmland, non-buildable property. That's when he got somebody offered $5,000 for it, and in the negotiation we put it to $6,500. This is property owned by the town, and we're not getting any tax money on it at all. And if he does build something on it, we can tax it. If he doesn't, well, we still get the price of the land itself, which is the price of farmland, more or less. So that's where we are.
What's the size of this property?
About a half an acre.
Oh, what was the number of that property?
132.
Isn't that Winkler Road?
Winkler.
You said Wells. You said Wells.
Oh, no, it says Wells. I say it's Wells Road.
Wells Road.
Yes.
132.
And a half acre, is it even buildable?
Well, if it's, in this contract, it says he wants to get a perk test, I believe. And so it's got to pass the perk test. And if it, I don't know if it's buildable.
Is there a joint
Lot size for building, which was a...
Subject to wetlands.
Is there a
Three-room
joint-
house with a septic tank. So he wants to build on it. And if he can't, then this falls through. So then we're back to square zero, square one.
What's subject to that?
Subject to that. If he can't get a perk test, he won't buy it.
And who owns the landowners adjacent to it?
Property owners, there's houses adjacent to it.
Okay. Small things.
Peggy, do you know from your planning and zoning, what's the minimum lot size required for building, do you know?
It depends on the sound and I don't know the sound. We can tell you that, or we can tell you that on the zone regulations.
I can find that out.
It also says in here, if subject to the water company line in the street, and if he can hook to it, it says if not available, the buyer may terminate his purchase sales agreement. So it's contingent, I guess, on a number of things here, whether he buys it or not.
Is there water in front of that on the street?
I know Wells Road does have some water.
Wells Road is all water.
Pardon?
It's all water.
Oh, got water.
Wells Road, right down Rice Road, all the way out to the apartments, got water.
Answers on the scanning put that in, they had to.
Yeah, but there's water up to, on Wells Road, up to,
Up to Winkler Road, Mahoney Road. The water comes up Mahoney Road, turns down Wells.
I thought it went further up and then towards the trolley museum.
It does, it turns at Winkler, but it goes straight down Wells now, all the way.
Also goes Wells, Rice, and over to the mansion.
It goes over to the mansion.
Canyon Ridge.
Canyon Ridge put it in.
And sewers limited there,
No sewers.
So what do you think?
What do we think, whether we should sell it or not?
Yeah.
Well, it's a piece of useless property. I think we should just get rid of all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Why hang on to it? It's a liability if someone falls
And also,
on
we,
it.
and we don't get no taxes, so if we sell it, we get taxes. So I'll make a motion then. I move, we sell, the 132, the property at 132 Wells Road to, RC Capital Management LLC for $6,500 and move it to a town meeting. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And also, I'll just mention that we have a property on Depot Street, 76 Depot Street, that's now for sale, and we're asking $69,900 for it.
That's a foreclosure property?
Yes.
Next to the German Club.
There's a house on it, yes.
How many acres?
That's a question.
That's not an acre.
I don't know how many acres it is. I can get that for you.
Do you know how many foreclosed properties there are in town?
Very few. We've been trying to sell them, and there's no houses that I'm aware of except there 20 Woolham Road is for sale, and I literally will sell it for $1. It's not worth anything. You can't build on it. You have to tear down the house that's there. It's in disrepair. But other than that, there's property for sale. There's some property that could be built on like this.
No.
But no, other than in 76 Depot, we have no real houses for sale.
Up in my neighborhood, on, I don't know what they call it, Sunview something, off of, it's Griffin Road. There's a cluster of houses there. And you know, there's a couple in there that were foreclosed and abandoned. I don't know.
Well, I shouldn't say foreclosed, it would be a tax sale. You know, we can foreclose when they don't pay taxes, but if it's foreclosed by a bank, then that's a different, then we don't know.
Okay, I don't know how some bank jumps away either. Because it looks like they've been abandoned for quite a while.
Well, if the bank's not paying taxes on it, then we would foreclose on it. So.
Usually the bank would mow the lawn and stuff so that at some point they can have an auction and sell it. But I don't see that there for some reason. Okay.
Okay. And so now, approval of tax refunds, I entertain a motion for that.
Would make a motion to approve the tax refunds in the amount of $8,464.58.
Okay, for a second?
I don't have that either.
You don't have that either?
I have one that says 87.
That was last one.
Was that last name? Okay.
Yeah, this is dated 1/29.
This is 129/2018.
These are all excess payments added.
Yeah, it's been checked by the treasurer and Patty, so they have to do it. Okay, there's a second? We have somebody second there?
Need the motion.
Yeah. All those in favor? Okay. All right, Selectmen reports. Charlie, do you have anything? Reports or comments?
I'll say that I've had comments by a number of people about the lines in the roads that were painted and how within the first couple of weeks they were worn off and gone, and that the chip stone that was done this past fall, that most of that has been scraped off and it's sitting on the sides of the roads.
The stone.
Yeah, and what caused that? Was it that stone size was too large? It was not hot enough? You know, I understand the company that did it was probably the best around. And someone from Ellington had told me that they had the same problem there and they had to come back and do it over. But this is pretty much gone already, that what they did in some roads, it's like right on a washboard because you got some stone and some completely back to the old pavement.
I spoke to Lenny about that.
You did?
And he said that he's put the company on notice, told him, because that is a problem, that's not normal.
Yeah.
And but he said you can't do anything during the winter, you're gonna have to wait until next spring or something.
Graham Road and Church.
He said he put the company on notice to let them know that the roads were falling apart.
Okay.
The way it is with the roads that are surfaced, it's got to reduce the longevity of the resurfacing. You know, the stones are wear surface, which make the asphalt stand up longer. And on Church Street and Graham Road, it's largely gone.
I've always said that chip sealing is nothing more than a cheap paint job. So take that money and just try to pave more roads.
But usually it lasts a couple, 3
It
years.
usually lasts, but something went wrong there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll see if we get a list of the roads that need repair from Glenn.
Not only put them on notice, but what is their response, you know, to this point? What is their plan to fix this? And what was the cause? I think those are the things that should be asked.
Well, in the past, Lenny has had them come back and redo some roads,
Yeah.
and they've done that because it didn't hold up.
Do we use the same contractor each year, or do we go out for bid on them each time? Do you know?
I do not know.
Okay, Andy, any?
I have no report.
Okay. And Steve?
Well, zoning Board of Appeals has canceled their meeting for February 5th. No applications, so that's a good thing. Nobody's arguing about anything. On the 7th, there will be a wetlands meeting in which the casino is going there for their reduction of wetlands areas. And I'd like to see all the support we can round up for that night. Just show up, support of that casino. Some people may not be for it, but it's a lot of money for this town.
7th, next Wednesday.
It's the 7th. You know, just show up in support of it. It should be a very simple meeting. Who knows, but just be there for the support.
Here?
Yep.
7:30?
7 o'clock.
Yep. And what else? I guess that's about it.
The only thing I have to report on is I went to an EDC meeting. We haven't had one of those for a long time, but we did have a quorum. And it was a good meeting, very good meeting. And now Bob likes joining, so it looks like the EDC is starting to come up and starting to come back to life. And one thing that we're doing is developing a website page for EDC, and it should be pretty good. So we're starting to move in that area. Okay, public participation. Yes, Sarah.
Sarah Muska, 25 Maple Avenue. I don't mean any disrespect while saying this, but it's extremely frustrating to me that you're a board of selectmen and you don't know how procedures and things work. We're taking time out of a meeting to discuss that, and I mean, I think you should attend some meetings and see how things work so you can be involved, you know, and I mean,
So, yeah, you're
I try to attend
referring
one.
to the CIP meeting?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Bob?
Could you tell me who are the chairman of the charter study committee?
Keith Yagaloff and John Matthews.
I guess this goes to ethics. I could swear that they had told you that they wanted the two people appointed because they were women.
No,
was that what you said?
They said, well, we have 7 men and 2 women on the.
So that shouldn't even be an issue. It should be part of the discussion. I'm completely flabbergasted about that.
I shouldn't have said that.
And now I kind of wonder, did the board vote based on the fact of the sexes of the?
No, I think they've asked me to chart.
This question, I mean, you're sitting.
I'm answering your question.
I just find that amazing.
Okay.
And I was going to withdraw anyway from it, and I have no problem at all not being on the board. I'm good with that. It's just that that's very disconcerting from this point of view, that the chairman of that board would consider that something to decide on, and then this board would actually decide on the same criteria.
And I'm saying this board did not. Maybe they maybe gave that impression, but this board has, and I would like to finish my sentence, if I could. This board, and rightfully so, has asked me to vet people in the sense that before I bring the nominations before them, I should check with the chairman of the boards to make sure that those people are acceptable to them. And that's what I did in this case, and I was relaying to them what the board said, and I shouldn't have gone into that detail. I should have said these are the ones.
Number one, the board shouldn't have said that.
I agree with you.
Number two, it shouldn't have been brought up here. That's wrong.
I'll accept that.
Music 10 Rice Road. Got 2 things. To stay on that subject, that statement, I agree with him, is quite discriminatory when you put out there, instead of qualifications, the gender of an individual. But what's more concerning to me is Board of Selectmen is in charge of getting applications for people that are interested in the board, and I have no problem you talking to the commission, but I have a problem when the commission is trying to make a final decision, because to me, that's just stacking the table so that there's only one side and one opinion, and it's opinion of whoever is in charge that wants to do it. And I find that being a disservice to the town. If you're going to put people on it, you certainly don't want to have all of your friends and all that have one-sided opinion that they want to maintain something, because somebody might change their mind if they have somebody with a different opinion. So I just throw that out there, that look at the best qualified candidate for the positions, whether you agree with their stance or you don't agree with their stance, because it certainly might give some insight for a better East Windsor. Second thing I have is on the document that Bob stated that Jason Balzer was kind enough to do a rough draft on, and then he piggybacked off of that. To just credit somebody that's a volunteer that took the step through the request of the first selectman, because I was at the meeting, if he would take a try at this Jason for us, and to just service him and discredit him, him not being here, and then you yourself, members of the board, have even taken the initiative to do a draft and present to Bob so he could piggyback off of it. Jason could have sat there and said, no, I'm not going to do it, I'm a volunteer too, and I'm not going to waste my time. Let Bob do it, because he's a paid employee of the town, and he didn't. He took his role up there seriously, and he said, okay, Bob, we'll do that for you. So to discredit him for that is wrong. That would be the same thing as if, Steve, you took the initiative to write something, and somebody else came in and tried to discredit you because they didn't like what you did. So I would suggest that everybody on the board do your due diligence and have something ready, because this should have been done already. this should have been done already. They're gonna implode that building at the end of February, and we still can't get a simple document presented. That's shameful in my eyes. So please work together to come up with something for us residents in town that pay. And the other thing is, and I apologize, I had babysitting commitments, so I couldn't make this CIP meeting. But those are volunteers. They attend the selectmen meetings, so they get a good handle, a lot of them, to see, you know, what's happening. They attend other meetings in town to get a handle on what's happening so that they know what the process is beforehand. Then they come in here, and I understand that you guys are new, but you can go back on minutes, if you're concerned with how CIP was developed, if you're concerned with how the items that should be in budgets that are now in capital improvement, how they got there. Go back to when Noreen Farmer was chairman of the Board of Finance, who did a lot of work with the auditors, a lot of work with the selectmen at the time, and the police department, and the fire departments. And what was happening is, and it started off with originally the fire departments needed emergency equipment, their breathing packs. And we could never find enough money in the budget to give them the breathing packs that they needed and to give them the equipment that they needed, the boots and the uniforms, because it's so expensive. So the decision back then was so that the public knew the importance, and because the laws have changed, that you have to replace them, no matter how good they are, you have to replace them, even if they've sat on that hook for how many years. When a certain time frame comes up by law, you have to replace them. They never had the money, so they're always behind. So for safety reasons, a lot of things back then, based upon the changes in the law, went into the capital improvement, so that everybody going forward, so that if this group is not on the capital improvement, the next group would know these are items that are vital to the town. The roads have to be repaired, the fire department has to be equipped with their fire trucks, the police departments have to be covered. So those were put in there for that intent, so they wouldn't get lost and they wouldn't be in that budget. So there's a lot of history out there if you go back and start looking at some of the old minutes. But again, if you start attending meetings as other people do to theirs, go to a CIP meeting, and see what they're doing, it saves those volunteers for having to spend more hours repeating everything that they've done and what they've gone through. We have to start trusting each other at boards and commissions that this group has done their job and presented to you. And then if you look at the process, the police department will come and speak to present that. Again, attend that meeting so that you know, so that they're not spending extra nights out too, because their time is just as invaluable as a volunteer as you guys are as volunteers. So try to work with them, because I hear all over that there's not a lot of representation from the Board of Selectmen going to other boards and commission meetings. And that's kind of shameful, especially for new people that really don't know a lot. I sat here tonight and I heard somebody say that there's no collaboration, we should be combining stuff. Well, there was a whole committee that was set up to take a look at what was being done in town and combine. An IT was put out there. The IT at the school is also doing the IT for the police department and for the town. That was a shared service that was put in there from the shared service committee. The mowing of different properties in town that belong to the town. It used to be the school did theirs and the town did theirs. Now they've combined those, so there are efforts. Our football team at the high school is now, as a sports, is combined with summers because we don't have enough students here interested in programs that they combine. We have students coming in from out of town that we get paid to have them here for. So before we criticize or before we make comments, do some research so that you know what people are doing. The Board of Ed, if you go to their meetings, the Board of Ed goes backwards, forwards, and sideways to make sure that when they come with a budget to present, that it's going to pass. Even with that 2%. You have to start looking what's out there. You can be anti-union all you want, that's fine, but as long as you have a union in place, you've got to go by the rules and regulations. So you can hate them, they're not going anywhere. So learn how they operate, learn what the criteria are, know your contracts, and move forward. You just can't say, well, you know, we'll go to draft number 47 now, it's been 6 months, or we want somebody to come in to talk to the Board of Selectmen, it's been a year and a half, that kind of stuff. You're not going to get anything done. Committee after committee after committee, I think it's a disservice because you can talk all day long until you show results with the police commission. That's all I got.
Okay, I'd like to
Just as a
respond.
note, just as a note, I did attend that CIP meeting,
Yes, you were one. Yep.
and the information that was presented by Public Works, in my estimation, wasn't adequate for the request. So I did look at that. I did look at other things. So it's just trying to be helpful.
And I'd like to
also
respond.
The liaison with Wells Point, I attended their meeting last month. Broadbridge is going to attend that this month. And also the Board of Finance. They can have a December meeting, and this meeting this month I was traveling. So it's not complete. It's only 2 months.
And I want to say that I do not intend at all to discredit Jason. And if I somehow discredited Jason, I apologize.
I did not say you were the one that discredited Jason.
Oh, I thought you were implying that, because I did, he wrote, and I thank him. I'm glad he gave his input. Now I understand what he said, and I read what he said, and I rewrote it, as you said. I appreciate him doing that, and I...
But my point is, Bob, the whole board should appreciate when somebody takes the initiative to help you out. That's all I'm saying.
I appreciate it. I thought all that...
You asked one time not to point fingers or say names, so I was just talking.
Okay, well, okay, I thought you were...
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that he moved the dialogue forward, and that's why I wrote my thing. I'm moving it forward, and you're absolutely right. We all feel that we should get something done, and we're doing everything we can to do it.
I want to say something.
Okay.
You're talking about me,
Yes,
which
sir.
is okay with me. A lot of people talk about me, and I
I'd rather talk
can give
about
it
your face
there.
and behind your back.
All I said was I didn't like what Jason put forth, and I told Bob I don't like his either. All right? I said I didn't like it. I didn't say I didn't like Jason or anything else. I said I didn't like what he wrote up, okay? And I told Bob the same thing.
Yeah.
Nothing against Jason, I just didn't like what he did. So I'm not supposed to sit up here and say I don't like things?
No, what you should
I'm
do
supposed to
is
like
take-
everything everybody throws at us?
I'm not saying that, but what you should do is take the initiative to present something to them if you don't like it, because there must be
I
something
see what
that
they're
you don't
doing.
like.
I know what they're doing. And I've said over and over again what I want, and where I want that money to go.
Then put it in writing. So
But
that
nobody-
Order, Mr. Chairman, they
But
should be
anyway,
addressing
enough.
you.
Yeah, I agree.
Dialogue.
Enough.
We're getting into a back and forth.
Yeah, we are.
That's all.
Enough.
Keith.
Keith Agaloff on Depot Street. I'm one of the co-chairmen for that advisory board for the charter review, and I just want to say what I told Bob and what my opinion was. So Bonnie Oski had been attending meetings, and we had sort of promised Bonnie that she would be a member and that there was an error in the original membership. And she came to the meetings and we discussed it, and we said we were going to make an effort to make sure that she got put on the commission. So Bonnie was participating, and she's ready to show her commitment and her willingness to participate. Rachel is someone who I don't know, but I understood that there was someone new in town, or not a new in town, someone that is new to getting involved in town that wanted to participate in the process and wanted to be part of the process. And I think that giving someone new an opportunity to be on a board is a great idea, and I didn't have a problem with her. And Bob, I've spoken to Bob on some town issues. I don't have any issues at all with him. And my comment was that I thought Bob would be good also. But as I understood it, the applications came in a certain way, and Rachel was somebody who was new. And my opinion was that she can be just as good as anybody that wants to apply. And you know, in terms of men versus women, I never get into judging people about their sex or their gender or anything. I don't care about anybody's anything as far as I'm concerned. But I did like the idea of having someone new that has not really participated a lot, being on the commission, and have some committee, and have some insight. I want to comment on the issues about the CIP for a moment. What seems to be doing two issues for sure. I like when people scrutinize the spending in town, and I don't view it as an attack at anybody or a criticism of anybody. I like questions about the spending because. I'll just give you an analogy. My wife and I, we're partners when we make decisions in our house about a refrigerator or about a furnace or about anything. When we built our house, we made decisions about everything. We work together in our business. We make decisions about purchasing everything. I think scrutiny is good. I think it's a collaboration. Challenging anybody on expenditures is collaborative. And I don't think anyone should take it personally. I think that one of the issues with the CIP is that I would like to see challenge on expenditures that are not absolutely clear. For example, the automotive questions that you had about the expenditures. They may need it, they may say they need it, but listen, we have to either pay for school or pay for police cars. We have to pay for roads or we have to pay for something else. And this town is not wealthy enough that it cannot afford to make tough decisions about how it spends its money. That's my feeling. And what we overspend in one area or we don't have to spend in one area is money that's available. I mean, to save it in one area is money we can spend where we really need it. People talk tonight about wanting to improve the school system. I'd like to see the money that doesn't need to be spent in other areas be spent on infrastructure and the schools, etc. I'd rather see a teacher than a police car, if you ask me, quite honestly. And if you don't ask the question as to why we need the cars, then, and I believe that the CIP is doing their job. I absolutely believe that they're doing their analysis and their job. But it helps to have, when I'm here, a member of the public hearing it, it helps to have the dialogue back and forth, and I like the scrutiny. I think it's healthy for our town in a positive way to ask hard questions, and I hope that people don't take it personally, because it's good for the town that it happens. And I just want to apologize to Bob if you felt slighted, because no intention for it.
The way it came across up there was all.
Yeah, and I think you do a great job for adding value for anything that you serve on in town, and didn't want you to feel slighted at all.
The irony, and I don't know whether it's just a tradition or whether it's a policy and a procedure in the past, has been for the respective town committees to recommend people to fill the vacancies on there. And ironically, the chairman of the Republican Town Committee is Bob Leach. It doesn't make any difference. I'm happy to see, regardless of party affiliation, 2 new people, 2 new voices with a pretty good perspective and trying to learn procedures and the policies and what's going on. And I like their inquisitiveness in terms of running a $37 million business like it's a business. On the positive side and the real plus side, we do have a vacancy on the East Windsor Veterans Commission. I'm happy to announce that because of the support of a lot of people in town, certainly the support of the Board of Selectmen, the monument project is complete. We're still selling pavers, the little $35 pavers that go around the outside. Anybody can buy them. You don't have to be a veteran. And everybody will be getting invitations. They're going out now to the dedication ceremony, which will be May 20th, 2018. And we're inviting some pretty good people.
Dale Nelson, 51 Amelia Road. I'd like to see the board members making the motions. Instead of you making them, Bob. The board members, if they want to run meetings and stuff in the future, they need to learn or get their feet wet in making motions. And the other thing I'd like to talk about is Board of Education, as you stated, gets 60% of the money here in town out of our budget. And yet, no one attends Board of Ed meetings. There's 2 a month. You can't tell them what to do with their money, but at least you'll know what your money is doing. There's wonderful projects in the works, and that was my job. I attended them before, and it's just that there's a lot going on there, and better to understand your education system.
I think the point is, it's really, I'm sorry, not my turn.
I'm done. I'm done.
I'm going to call him Bob Leach. Then I'd like to call on you because I'd like to hear what you have to say. Go ahead, Bob.
I just wanted to thank Keith for his comments, and I never, it's just the way it came across when you had mentioned it.
It was my fault.
Yeah, the other thing though is Mr. Light made a good point, is I've never been notified that there was any openings for an alternate. The only reason I had found out is I had read something on the town's website. Being the chairman of the RTC, and I'm sure the chairman of the Democrat Town Committee, we should have been notified of these things. and given time to find candidates for you. That's general procedure. I don't know.
I think we need candidates, and I'll say for the EDC, we need economic development people, and I think.
No notification, I mean, that's why I threw my hat in there, I'm like, well, I'll get in here, but I think we made a good choice with the two candidates we have, and I think they'll be fine.
We'll send out more, because we really need volunteers, and.
I would just have that as part
Like I said, once I found out, I was gonna withdraw anyways.
Okay.
But just the way it came across was bad.
Apologize for that. Okay, Kathy, you wanted to say something?
All I was going to say is that it's very difficult for committee members to come and have done all the work and then to try to come and regurgitate all of it, or for the supporting departments who gave us all of this work to come and regurgitate all of it again. I think historically in this town, the Board of Selectmen members have attended those meetings in order to understand everything firsthand, to hear the questions and to hear the information, so that they could gain that knowledge. And if you guys aren't going to attend, no one's attended a Board of Ed meeting from the Selectmen since Dale left the board. So I just think if you guys are going to look for that level of detail, the best way to obtain it would be to attend those meetings. Because it's just not possible to reiterate entire conversations.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Back.
Fair enough. I will attend.
Thank you.
Tom?
Tom Talamini, I wanted just to say I agree with Kathy on that it's great to scrutinize all these budgets and everything else, but you can't micromanage it. You gotta trust your other people. I mean, you guys dictate to tell people what to do. You gotta trust your committees and your department heads. I mean, they know what the budget is. We go through this every year. We just can't do anything with 2%, and everybody knows that. So you gotta trust the people that you have on these committees. And the other comment I wanted to make was, I don't know if anybody read the paper tonight, that Enfield has got a big building coming up, gonna come right next to the East Windsor property line up there on
King Street.
On King Street. Go from Mullen Road, King Street, all the way to the East Windsor line and stop. Again, it's had 113 acres, it said. I mean, we must have land in this town that's got that big parcel to it. It's just a shame that we can't attract these people.
What kind of building is it, Tom?
It didn't say who was coming either. I think it's really in a development stage, because I think they're looking for a couple things from the town, I thought that it said, isn't it?
It's a trucking deal.
It's gonna be a trucking, I think it called for 120.
It's 100,000 square foot building and another 500,000.
It's big.
Distribution center then.
Some sort of a distribution center, yeah, it did say a distribution center of some sort.
I don't mean to spend a solid in recording, but that's exactly why we need an economic development director. It really truly is.
I mean, I just found it was ironic that it's stopping at the East Windsor line.
We probably didn't even know about it.
As a board member of the Chamber of Commerce, I've attended quite a few of the North Central meetings out there, and they've had excellent presentations from their economic development team, and I accent team. They're doing a good job. And we're going to learn from it. We're going to get there, but we're not going to get there with volunteers.
No.
No, you're not.
Not at all.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, people are putting their coats on. So any more public participation? Okay, thanks a lot. We'll approve the check registers and then go into executive session. Second call in executive session.
Well, second. After a 5-minute break.
How about?
Thank you.
There's a question about. Or is that a fake?
Charlie, I'm gonna continue the investigation until I get a definitive answer.
I mean, it looks like the one, but I don't, it's probably not the one.
So I'm gonna go look, see if I got.
But you know something, it does look good up there. I like that.
I like the concept, but I really want it to be the right thing. And the original, and I believe the original had, you have to do this now.
I don't even know what's in it yet.
Well, it doesn't matter, you still gotta do it.
Larry, can I look at it?
No, you gotta do it. There's pressure here.
Yeah.
Well, you can do it. Absolutely, you guys can have fun doing it.
Where is that?
Our meetings are held at the high school. Yep, and there's a meeting room that we're at, and so we're going to the main doors at the high school, take a right down the hall.